Hey, it's Gavin with Haversick Designs, and we're here at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay at the Resch Institute of Music. It's a new, awesome facility that we helped design, and we're going to go give it a tour. Hey, Dr. Zalek, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah.
Wow, man, it's so great to see this space finally finished, right?
Yeah, it was drawings for so long.
Right, exactly. I'm here today with Dr. Bill Salick, the Associate Professor of Music at University of Wisconsin-Green Bay. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I remember when I first came up here, the very first trip, and just such a big transformation from what you had previously to now. I'm sure walking students through this facility is probably really helpful for admissions. And
It is, and even for current students, there's a level of excitement that they have that they didn't quite have last year. The most encouraging thing was one student who said to me, you know, I walk in here and I don't feel like I'm on campus anymore.
Wow. Okay.
And that's not to say anything about our campus. I love our campus, but there's definitely a vibe in this space that wasn't here before.
Stepping in here first, this is control room B.
Yeah.
So there's 2 control rooms in this building, and we got 2 live rooms, a vocal booth, but we'll start in here, kind of looking at some of the details.
Yeah, and so each of the control rooms are the same size, but we kind of envisioned this as a slightly smaller project scope area. We've got the Audient console, which I'm really, really impressed with. Super flexible, sounds amazing, and we're monitoring through Neumann 150s. And you look at those and you think you need a sub. You don't need a sub.
Right.
You don't need a sub.
Yeah, yeah.
But the listening I've done in this room has been absolutely fantastic.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, Audient console, we have quite a few clients that have gone that route and they just love it. You know, like some of it, the simplicity or just the way that it operates in comparison to maybe some other boards, it just fits for some clients really like that. You got some other rack gear here?
Yeah, so we're still in the process of finishing this off, but we've got, you know, the power supply for the console, we've got links conversion to get you in and out of the computer, and then I love analog outboard gear. I think, and especially as a teacher, it makes students think about signal flow, and it also makes sure that you're not mixing with your eyes, because there are no presets, there's no graphical interface. You go over here and you listen, and you turn the knob until it sounds the way you want it to. So you're always working on your ears. But decent number of compressors of different kinds, 76 style, 2A style. I love Jeff Daking's gear. And then a couple of 500 racks, because, you know, with limited physical space, it's just a really great way to get stuff done. And so there's, again, some compressors and then some alternate mic pre's here. So if you want something that does have a little bit more like obvious color than the Audient pre, you've got some options from Rupert Neve Designs and Camden.
I think it's a really good selection for students to be able to try different things out and learn as you go, like you said. That's great.
A state regional comprehensive university has a certain kind of reputation for what kinds of resources it has, and just like in with the Performing Arts Center across the street, like we're able to kind of outstrip those expectations. And that is really exciting from an admission standpoint. And then as students discover more and more the capabilities of the physical facilities, along with, you know, what you can do with an inline console, what you can do with specific pieces of outboard equipment, it's almost like there's this like snowballing effect of learning more and more and staying engaged and staying excited that goes throughout a student's, you know, entire 4 years here. It's been really fantastic.
As far as some of the acoustical elements that are in here, by the way, all the acoustical elements were installed by Simplified Acoustics, and they just did a fantastic job. We did renderings of this space, and it looks just like the renderings did. They really did a great job pulling that off. So some of the elements in this control room, we have, traditionally we use a lot of soffit bass trapping around the room, and so it's a great way to handle tangential modes and make the room more controlled in the lower end side of things. Plus it's areas of the room that we're just not using for anything else anyway, so might as well take advantage of that. So that's all the way around the perimeter of the room. Some of the HVAC grills are introduced into that soffit bass trap as well. Have this great ceiling cloud right above the mix position that covers first reflection points, but I love just the geometry of it is just something visually striking about it. It's doing all the right things acoustically by hitting those first reflection points, but then visually it's a great element with the backlighting of the LEDs and some of the task lighting lighting that's built into the clouds as well. And then other than that, we have a stretch fabric system around the entire room that is got 4-inch thick of treatment in most places, and some base trapping here in the back of the room. One of the things that Melissa Destry from Destry Architects selected was this couch, and it's we were just talking a little bit about how this couch fits perfectly in this kind of asymmetrical back corner of the room, and same thing on the other control room too. So
yeah, because there are a couple structural elements that were part of the building that were unmovable, and so there is a little bit of asymmetry back here. And this couch looks like a design commission for this space, and Melissa just found it off the shelf.
Yeah,
she's fantastic.
It's awesome. And then we've got the diffusers here in the back here from Kinetics Noise Control, the mid-tone diffusers that are built into that bass trap on the back wall. And then we have another cloud here in the back of the room that's not completely absorptive. It's got the ash wood on the front face of it, so that it's tuned to be able to absorb low frequencies a little bit better, but then scatter the rest to make it not too dead sounding in the room.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the critical listening I've done in this room so far, it's very detailed, it's very clean, it's not hyped anywhere, but it's not dead.
Yeah.
You know, there's just enough ambience to keep things live and natural.
Well, let's see Studio A right on the other side of the hallway here.
So, Studio A, the console is not in here yet. We have a 32-channel console from Jeff Daking coming in January. So right now we've got an in-the-box setup with outboard mic pre's from Grace Designs and Neve. Again, like, you know, really, really high-quality stuff.
That's great.
And then actually we've got a little bit of sort of like a mastering bus suite over here with some SSL and Rupert Neve designs and dangerous music options, so that students who want to work on, you know, really want to put the final polishes on their finished tracks have some really great tools to do it. And I don't think I've ever heard a pair of speakers that I love more than the Focal 11s.
Yeah.
They're really impressive, but again, they're not garish, they're not hyped, they're clear, they just sound huge.
We've had these in multiple studios we've done, and haven't found someone yet that has a thing bad to say about them.
Yeah,
so,
no, absolutely.
That is awesome.
Yeah, they're heavy, that's the
that's the only thing. They're heavy, it's tough to position them, and then after they're set, you're good to go. So yeah, this room obviously has a lot of the same acoustical elements that we have in Control Room B over there. So soffit bass trapping, clouds, diffusers. We wanted to try to make them fairly consistent, even though they're not the same size. We wanted the listening experience to be able to be transferable, especially for students that maybe they've started a project in here and they finished it in there, or vice versa. Make sure that there's not anything that's suddenly they feel like they have to change the direction on what they're working on. So
no, absolutely.
Then the other benefit of this room, one, it has the straight line shot into Live Room A, which is I think kind of the big focal point of this studio is that live room. I really love how it turned out. But then it also has its own dedicated vocal booth over here to the left.
Right.
And you have sight lines into the vocal booth and into the live room, and then the vocal booth can see into both rooms as well. So I think it's really great for communication. Yeah,
it's great for communication, and it also makes a lot of sense because even though this room, in terms of size, feels similar to B, there's a way in which, you know, project scope scales up as you go from being a sophomore to a junior to a senior, and you move into this room and you have more square footage for musicians, you have an isolation option, and again, once the console comes in, you're going to have more inputs and more signal flow options.
Sounds great. All right, let's actually go into that room right now.
Great.
So I'm Debbie Popham. I am the director of the Resch Institute of Music. I'm brand new here. I just started in July, so I had the opportunity to walk into this beautiful space that was in progress and kind of see it through its fruition, and excited to be here.
That is awesome. So, so what do you think of everything?
It's amazing. We're so lucky here to not only have the institutional support, but the donor gift from Sharon Resch to be able to have this amazing opportunity for these students.
Yeah, I'm always really excited when universities are upgrading their facilities like this, because I just know potential students and existing students that get to take advantage of it. It's just like such a game changer for them.
And you know, music is constantly evolving, and it's important that we stay current with what the students need in their education. And you know, this is a very viable career and income source, and excited to have this opportunity for students to be a part of that.
Kind of transitioning through here, this is a machine room. We got a lot of the brains of the studio here.
Yeah, so the central patch bay lives here. That Ethernet switch, that fan can just go and it doesn't bug anybody. And then you can't hear it now, but one of the pieces of gear that we got gifted from some folks in the Performing Arts Center across the street is an Aphex 9000 rack, which is a different format, sort of an early competitor to the API 500 format.
Sure.
But this has an external power supply that is loud.
It is really loud,
And
yeah.
so if you want to use, and again, the modules in there are great, but if you want to use them, we've got the power supply in here running through the walls in there, so you can turn this on and it sounds like a quiet vacuum.
Yeah, nice.
But it's isolated in here and all you hear in there is the music.
That's great. And then one of the things with this layout that we were looking to do is allow people in a small footprint. You have to get a little creative sometimes with the layout, and to be able to have access to not only the control room A and control room B, but to be able to have those rooms play well with these two live rooms, there needs to be a way to enter both of them from that area. So a lot of this was this like workflow and logistics and how we can do that, where someone in control room B can come through this airlock and go into ISO room or the live room B without disturbing what's going on in A. So this little vestibule that we have with these sliding glass doors on both sides. Now, also, you could always use this. We have a patch bay here to where you can, patch into this room and use it for an amp room or something like that. But I think it's a really cool design for optimizing the small space.
No, it's a fantastic design. And again, one of the things you come across when you work in a small space is potentially anywhere as a recording space. And so by putting these tie lines in here, normally this will perform its role as an acoustic sound lock. And again, the isolation between these two rooms, between these sliding doors and this vestibule is really great. But yeah, if you need to put a bass, an amp in here or a vocalist or whatever, you can still use this as a recording space for really dense projects.
All right, I can't wait. Let's go into here. This space is just beautiful. This is where I'd spend a lot of my time if I was a student in here.
Yeah.
And so this is the largest room that is in here, and one of the things that we wanted this space to be is just really flexible, like just something that you could use it for a lot of different applications, because I'm sure that your students, each one of them are going to want to use it in a different way. And so
We have students who come from a bunch of different backgrounds. Some of them come from a classical background where maybe they were the best clarinetist in their high school band and they're interested in audio. And we've also got people who come from bedroom producing electronic music, rock and roll. And so the space is really, really flexible in that regard, like you say. Another thing that I like about this is that it's large enough that we can pre-stage some instruments in here. So, every engineer needs to learn how to set up a drum set, mic a drum set in a particular way, but this room is big enough that we can have, a preset electric piano. There is going to be a drum set that comes in here so that, students who need to get a drum track down will have something to work with, but it's not going to take up the entire room, So like you said, tons of flexibility.
Yeah, and we wanted to design the acoustical treatment in here so that you could move instruments around and get a different sound if you wanted to. Like one of the big features here is this wall that has acoustical treatment with the ash wood on top of it with a numerically spaced wood planks. And what it does is it helps to absorb certain frequencies, even better than they would if those wood slats weren't there, but then not kill off the sound too much, because in a live room you want it to have some sort of sonic character. Like you don't want it to just be completely dead all the time.
Right. And I think another way in which you have that are these treatments with the curved plastic panels covering the absorption panels. So you really do have. You can dial in, depending on how many of the plastic covers you take off, how much absorption, how much reflection do you want. I think the curtain over by the sliding doors plays into that too. This is, again, for a fairly small and like superficially simple room, there's a ton of flexibility.
Yeah. That's it. That Acoustical Fulfillment is the company that makes these Flex 48s, and it's something that I helped design and get a patent on, actually, because I'm just so into giving people options. It's like you don't want to just have a room that's a one-trick pony and all you can do is one thing in it. It's like with this, and it's just a great teaching tool for students as well. It's like, hey, you didn't really like how that room sounded, just let's adjust it. Let's make some changes. And with the curtains and that, and just positioning, be able to place different things in the room, it goes a long way. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and I love some of the other elements. Like again, Simplified Acoustics did a great job with these. It's kind of like a ceiling cloud plus wall treatment all into one, but then with backlighting and you being able to change those LEDs to whatever color that you want, and just set the mood for what the student wants.
Yeah, between that and all the task lighting that's on dimmers, like you can make this room feel 17 different ways depending on not just the style of music you're recording, but like the needs of the particular artist.
Exactly, I love it.
I tell students a lot that the business really it exists in 3 equal parts, that there's a technical aspect, and there's a musical aspect, and there's also an interpersonal aspect.
Yeah.
Because if performers aren't comfortable, if we've got so much light flexibility in here that you can help performers create whatever mood they want to create, which is great, because if the sound isn't great by the time it gets to the microphone, there's nothing you can do after that.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that students get very excited about what happens once sound becomes electricity, and then once it becomes digits. There's so much cool stuff you can do, but there's also so much cool stuff you can do early on in the signal chain.
Oh, for sure.
And,
and it's great that you're teaching them both. It's like because it's all part of the process and serving the song, and because that's the main thing with any of these spaces, is that I just want to make sure that it serves the creative vision that someone has. Because it's still about the song for me. Working on that craft and making sure that you can put out what you have in your head, like what you'd like it to be. Let's go over to the live room B really quickly. It's a lot of the same elements that we implemented into that space, except it's just a little smaller, And I think it's great to, like you said, how students can kind of upgrade or advance in their career. It's like being able to maybe use this room for a little while and then move over to the big room, and it has a lot of the same elements as far as these soffit bass traps and 4-inch thick acoustical panels on the walls, which help a lot with that low end energy that are usually problematic in rooms of this size. But this room, even just speaking in here, you can tell it's really balanced and even. So
really balanced, really true. And I think there's a point in a student's life where too many options can be confusing instead of helpful.
Sure.
And so when you're setting up your first multi-track sessions and you have one live room, this is basically it. And it means that you'll move up to a more flexible room and appreciate what it offers, but it's also a few fewer things you have to worry about. It's a little bit more plug and play kind of situation.
Yeah, love it.
When I first walked in this room, it feels conceptually like someone made a very, very high quality project studio out of, say, a bedroom control room and a bedroom live room, but everything is just like the quality is just up to the nines.
Yeah. And I remember when we started the process, like, we're talking about all the interior acoustical treatment elements, but there's a lot that went into the isolation of the space. And from us giving you audio examples of how much these wall and ceiling and floor structures were going to isolate the sound, and that's a ton of work that just gets covered up. Like no one ever gets to see what happens behind that.
Right, absolutely. And part of the walkthrough we're not going to have is all the way up and down the halls around the outside of this suite are faculty offices in humanities and history and theater, and people who don't necessarily want to hear rock and roll, for 6 hours a day when they come in and work.
Sure.
And for as much as I love everything about the quality of the interior, I have not had a single faculty member come up to me and say, "Hey, that's kind of noisy." Like the isolation is top notch.
Yeah, that's great. And then with that too is just low noise. Like the HVAC is super quiet, and that all comes from how it gets routed and how it gets balanced, and then running within isolated soffits. And there's a lot that goes into that, and it seems like a minor detail, but without those details, sound could spill out very easily, or you could hear the unit inside the room. So So today we are on location with Melissa Destry from Destry Architects, and we are actually here at University of Wisconsin-Green Bay, which is a project that we've worked on, and first project that we've worked on actually.
Yeah.
So let's start off a little bit by just telling the audience a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I am an architect and a registered interior designer. We have our own firm. There's 9 of us, and we've been around now. We're going to be celebrating 25 years, and we actually specialize on interior build-outs and renovations. And over the years, we have done quite a few sound studios, video studios, a city channel for the city of Madison in Wisconsin. as well as some spaces for the University of Wisconsin system, which is what brought us here to UW Green Bay.
As far as doing a studio, how does that differ compared to some of the other projects you're working on?
Well, I will start that this one was wonderful, actually having an acoustical designer.
Sure.
Because a lot of our projects that we'll work with, we work with the engineers on staff. They have very specific ideas and goals, and we work specifically with them on the design of the space and then support them as the architect. So it was actually kind of fun having a more collaborative process here on this project.
Yeah, and that went really well on this one. It's, I always like to learn from people who know a lot more than we do on certain topics, and that's for sure the case here. But just the back and forth with, it was mostly yourself and Richard and also Tracy and Oscar on my staff and myself, and it was just a fun project. All right, so we've seen the Studio Arts building, but there's a whole nother building that we did 3 more rooms in.
There's a whole other half to this.
Yeah, so let's go check out the Widener Center.
Sounds great.
All right.
So before we go upstairs to the studios, we're here in the Widener Center for the Performing Arts. I wanted to show you Coffin Family Hall, which is the main performing hall in this complex. Really beautiful, seats 2,200 at full capacity, which we just hit this past week because we did the Nutcracker here.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
It was the Northeast Wisconsin Dance Organization. Acoustically beautiful hall, my favorite hall to perform in. And one of the benefits of this program is that this is one of the spaces that's networked to the control rooms that we're going to go to upstairs.
Yeah. I remember peeking my head in here when I first came up, and it's just like, it's a beautiful space, and the fact that students have access to it is that's on another level. It's great.
Absolutely.
And the studios that we're going to happen to be right up there, right on the other side of the wall, which was part of our isolation plan. We had to make sure that those spaces weren't going to interfere with performances that were going on in here.
Yeah. And also, students who are in the program, in addition to getting the experience of performing in here and recording from up there, the Widener Center for the Performing Arts has student workers. And so, perhaps instead of doing an internship and paying for credits at a live sound reinforcement company, you can come here and this can be your campus job to support events here. It's really great.
That's really great. Yeah, let's go check out the studios.
Yeah.
All right, so we're here in the Widener Center now. I'm gonna look at the studios here. Right now, they're still kind of work in progress. There's some furniture and things that we still are waiting for getting in, but want to at least show off the rooms while we're here.
Yeah, sure.
Nice.
So this is gonna be the Dolby Atmos studio.
Yeah.
I'm sure, from a architectural standpoint, you can see the kinship between this control room and the rooms across the way, and it's interesting because because of the way the space on this floor was laid out. Again, you had to deal with some physical constraints within the building. Yeah. But I mean, this is an incredibly spacious control room. We've got the ceiling mounts in. We've got the ear level speaker stands in. We're just waiting for some furniture.
Yeah. That's going to be great. I mean, I bet students are probably pretty excited to work in that format, to work in Atmos.
They are. And I'm excited because it really looks like that format is going to get a much better toehold in the market than a lot of other previous attempts.
For sure.
I remember 5.1, and if you didn't have 6 speakers, you didn't have all the information. But there's so much work in that field that, again, for students who want to have a broad career, if you can mix music to Atmos, if you can work in video post, you're going to be set up really, really well. Yeah, it's a beautiful room. I love the wood trim around the ceiling clouds where it was a nice addition, and then these beautiful diffusers that are on the back wall. And once the Atmos system gets put in here and all the furniture and gear, it's going to be a space that probably students fight over a little bit to It's probably
going
to be like, students are probably going to smuggle a Blu-ray player in here and just watch movies.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's awesome. So we're going to pop over there's another control room right on the other side of this wall. So this control room is similar in size, but it actually is just a stereo room.
It is just a stereo room, but it's a stereo room with a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
So this is the room that's going to be Dante networked to the 3 performance spaces in the building. And so any of your event recording or live streaming can happen up here. This room is also networked to the podcast recording studio next door.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but this is also where our Eurorack synthesizer setup is going to be.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yeah. Again, it's not just a great teaching tool, but it's a really great music creation format. It keeps students thinking about signal flow. And for students who come to this through electronic music production and synthesis, it's really engaging. And again, because we have the luxury of this room, but only the need for stereo reproduction, we're going to have room for that. And there's a lot of different stuff that's going to happen in here.
That's great. We do a lot of studios that are designed from the ground up, where it's just a blank canvas. That was not the case in this one. We had a lot of things that we had to work around, and the fact that it's an older building, like this was 1960s.
Yeah.
So what were some of the challenges that you were faced with designing for a space like this?
Well, in the 1960s, the floor to ceiling height is never high enough. And the air handling unit is many years old, you know, and this is a public school, so it is, you know, funded by tax dollars. So very well maintained building, but we had height constraints and things like that. Great news is it was a 60s building that actually had substance, and it was well built concrete construction, so that was good. And these spaces that we're now in were kind of 3 very underutilized rooms that had a lot of file cabinets with a lot of sheet music in them.
I remember my first visit when I came up here.
It was almost like a library of sheet music. Yeah.
Yeah, the transformation is wild. What it was to what it is today. The HVAC in particular that you mentioned was a kind of a rat's nest of ducting and things like that to work around.
And Henneman Engineering did an amazing job. Yeah, because this was his second studio he had done. So
exactly. And then also the contractor involved with the project, Immel Construction, like do you know if they had done a studio before, or
not specifically? But I had done an airport with them, and they did such an amazing job. And they did the same care and level of detail building this out, and they were so knowledgeable and so well prepared every week to tackle these very small, detailed elements that they had to coordinate. So
and I really loved, like, anytime we had a meeting, everybody was just looking to get the right solution. You know, it's like everybody working together. Those are the type of teams that we really like being involved with.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a project like this, especially for a university, are there some like sustainability issues that you look at?
Yes. So one, indoor air quality is always key. So we're always focusing on that. But when we have an opportunity to specify wood in Wisconsin, at our firm, we really like to specify ash. So we have ash floors, as well as all the accent wood is ash. Wisconsin has been quite devastated by the emerald ash borer, and it's a great way to use all the downed trees.
So, and it's beautiful.
And it's beautiful, especially when you pickle it like this.
It looks really great. Last room in here is the podcast room that's around the other side of here. So in here we've got a podcast room that is going to be set up. You're going to have a table here and some video screens, I believe. And,
so there'll be a table coming out here with mic booms and chairs, and that kind of feels like your news podcast. We also got some furniture coming in, so there are going to be some nice chairs and ottomans over here. So you can do podcasting in different moods, different topics, and also because the isolation between here and the Performing Arts Hall is so good, maybe I'm not going to be dialing up a huge guitar amp in here, but there's no reason you couldn't use this for acoustic recording.
Well, I think it's just so important too to allow the students to have access to a room to do podcasting, because it's just such a big part of kind of sometimes how you sell yourself in this industry and kind of promote yourself. Is so many artists have their own podcasts, and I think that it's a great way to reach a wider audience, and having a built-in facility like this would be great.
Yeah, and to be able to do it in a really well-designed room takes care of so many like ground floor problems that you have when you run into podcasting in your bedroom or a spare room or just a regular room. You can go from zero to professional product really quickly.
Nice. Yeah, and here we've got pre-wrapped fabric-covered fiberglass panels, kind of all around the walls, and then we have them in the ceiling as well, kind of surrounding these light tracks. But then you also have this PET material here on this wall that is a recycled polyester, and kind of a nice feature. I think that in a podcast facility, it's nice to have some different visual elements if people are going to do video along with their podcast. And having this as a backdrop as compared to some of the panels just gives someone flexibility to do different things. Well, Dr. Salick, thank you so much for allowing us to come in here and tour your beautiful new space, and for allowing us to be part of the project. So.
No, absolutely. It's been a wonderful experience in no small part due to you, and so the thanks is mutual.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.